The bruises were barely visible. That's what made them so dangerous. Ethan Cross sat alone at table 17 in the Grand Azure dining room, a place he owned but rarely visited. The restaurant occupied the top floor of his flagship hotel in Manhattan, where CEOs made deals over wine that cost more than most people's rent. Tonight, the room buzzed with quiet conversation and the soft clink of silverware against porcelain. Ethan had returned from 6 months in Singapore, building an empire that already stretched across 3 continents. He was tired. He was always tired. But something made him look up. A waitress approached his table with careful steps, her eyes fixed on the floor. She wore the standard uniform, black and pressed, with sleeves that reached past her wrists despite the August heat. Her name tag read Maya. She was new. Ethan knew every face in this building, and hers wasn't one he recognized. She moved like someone trying to take up less space than she already did, her shoulders slightly hunched, her breathing measured and controlled. When she reached for his empty glass, her sleeve shifted just an inch. Purple and yellow marks circled her wrist like a twisted bracelet. The bruising had that specific pattern, the kind that came from fingers gripping too hard too long. More marks traced up her forearm, fading from fresh to old, a timeline written on her skin. She noticed him looking and yanked her sleeve down so fast the water pitcher in her other hand trembled. A drop spilled onto the white tablecloth. Maya's face went pale. Her lips parted to apologize, but Ethan raised one hand slowly, deliberately. She froze. The entire interaction lasted maybe 5 seconds. To anyone watching, it would have looked like nothing. A customer being patient with a clumsy server. But Maya saw something else in his eyes, something that made her step back even though he hadn't moved. He didn't ask if she was okay. He didn't demand an explanation. He simply watched her retreat to the kitchen, her hand clutching the sleeve like it might betray her again. Then Ethan pulled out his phone and typed a single message to his chief of operations. 3 words. No explanation needed. Clear the building. 15 minutes later, chaos erupted in the most controlled way possible. The manager announced a private emergency requiring immediate evacuation. Guests were offered full refunds and complimentary stays. Staff were told to go home with pay. Security guided everyone toward the elevators with polite insistence. Within 20 minutes, the Grand Azure dining room stood completely empty except for the soft glow of chandeliers and the 2 people who remained. Maya stood near the kitchen doors, her back pressed against the wall. Ethan sat at table 17, his phone dark, his hands folded on the table. The silence between them felt heavier than any conversation. She knew she should run. Every instinct screamed at her to move. But the exits were locked now, controlled by security systems only Ethan could override. She was trapped with the most powerful man in the building and nobody knew she was here. He stood slowly, buttoning his suit jacket. Maya's breathing quickened. He took 3 steps toward her and stopped, maintaining enough distance that she could still reach the kitchen if she needed to. Then he did something that shattered every assumption she'd built in her mind. Ethan rolled up his own sleeve. The scars on his forearm told their own story. Old burn marks, faded but unmistakable. A fracture line that had healed crooked. Small circular marks that looked like cigarette burns. He held his arm in the light so she could see every detail, every piece of evidence that someone had once hurt him too. When he spoke, his voice carried no anger, no pity, just flat certainty. I don't ask questions I don't already know the answer to. Maya's knees buckled. She didn't fall, but she came close. The words she'd been holding back for 2 years suddenly rushed out in a broken whisper. His name was Derek. They'd been engaged for 14 months. He worked at a nonprofit helping disadvantaged youth. Everyone loved him, everyone thought he was perfect. He controlled her bank account because he said she was bad with money. He kept her passport because he worried she'd lose it. He chose her clothes because he had better taste. And when she disappointed him, when she was clumsy or stupid or ungrateful, he reminded her that nobody else would ever want her. The bruises on her wrist came from last Tuesday. She'd burned his dinner. The older marks came from 3 weeks before that. She'd smiled at a customer too long. There were more bruises hidden under her uniform, fresher ones that still hurt when she moved. Derek always apologized after. He always cried and promised to change. He always said it was because he loved her too much. Ethan listened without interrupting. When she finished, he pulled out his phone again and made a call. Maya heard only his side of the conversation. File it tonight. Use the second firm. I want it sealed. He ended the call and looked at her with those cold, calculating eyes that had destroyed competitors across 3 continents. Go home, he said. Pack nothing. Bring nothing. Leave your phone. A car will be waiting downstairs in 30 minutes. Maya wanted to ask questions, but something in his tone made her obey. She took the service elevator down, her mind racing. A black sedan idled at the employee entrance. The driver opened the door without speaking. She climbed inside and the car pulled away from the only life she'd known for 2 years. The next morning, Maya woke up in a furnished apartment she didn't recognize. The lease agreement on the kitchen counter had her name on it. Paid in full for 1 year. Her phone was gone, replaced by a new one with a different number. A laptop sat on the desk with a sticky note. Check your email. She opened the laptop with shaking hands. The first email was from Ethan's company. A termination letter. Effective immediately. No reason given. Public record. The second email was from a bank she'd never used. Account balance $250,000. The third email was from a law firm she couldn't pronounce. Documents attached. Restraining order filed and approved. Derek's name marked as the restricted party. Maya's hands went numb. She'd been fired. Publicly humiliated. Her termination was already spreading on social media. People were calling Ethan cruel. Heartless. Typical billionaire destroying a poor waitress for sport. The comments section overflowed with rage. Someone started a GoFundMe for her. News outlets picked up the story. Billionaire fires abuse victim, trending on 3 platforms. But Maya understood something the public didn't. Ethan hadn't just fired her. He'd erased her from Derek's reach. New name on the lease. New bank account he couldn't access. New phone number he didn't have. The termination letter gave her the perfect excuse to disappear. She wasn't running away. She'd been dismissed. Even Derek couldn't argue with that. Derek called her old number 63 times that first day. The phone sat powered off in the apartment Ethan had arranged. By day 2, Derek started showing up at the hotel demanding to speak to management. Security turned him away. By day 3 his credit cards stopped working. All of them. Every account frozen pending investigation. His car got towed for unpaid parking tickets that suddenly appeared in the system. The nonprofit where he worked received an anonymous audit request from the state. His perfect life started crumbling in tiny, precise ways that left no fingerprints. Maya watched it happen from her new apartment. The laptop received daily updates. She didn't ask for them. They just appeared. Derek's unraveling played out in real time through news alerts and public records. The nonprofit audit uncovered missing funds. Small amounts. 500 here. 1,000 there. Enough to raise questions. Derek's boss put him on leave pending review. His friends started asking uncomfortable questions. His social media filled with concerned messages that felt more like accusations. He lasted 9 days before he snapped. Maya was leaving her new apartment for the first time since arriving. She needed groceries. Basic things. Bread. Coffee. She was halfway to the corner store when she heard his voice behind her. Maya. Derek's tone carried that dangerous sweetness he used right before things got bad. Baby, where have you been? I've been so worried. She turned slowly. He looked terrible. Unshaven. Rumpled clothes. Wild eyes. This was the version of Derek nobody else ever saw. The one who came out when he lost control. He moved toward her with his hands raised like he was approaching a frightened animal. Let's go home and talk about this. Whatever I did, I'm sorry. You know I love you. Maya's voice came out steadier than she expected. Stay back, Derek. There's a restraining order. You're not supposed to be within 500 feet of me. His face shifted. The sweetness evaporated. Restraining order? Are you insane? I would never hurt you. You fell. You're clumsy. Everyone knows that. He took another step closer. You need to come home right now before you embarrass yourself more than you already have. A black sedan pulled up to the curb. The same one from 10 days ago. The driver stepped out, phone already recording. Derek was so focused on Maya he didn't notice. He grabbed her arm, his fingers finding the exact spots where the old bruises had been. Maya gasped in pain. The driver captured everything. 2 police cars arrived within 3 minutes. Someone had called them. Maybe the driver. Maybe Ethan. Maybe both. Derek was still holding Maya's arm when the officers approached. The restraining order was active. The violation was clear. His arrest played out on a busy street corner with dozens of witnesses recording on their phones. Derek screamed that it was all a misunderstanding, that she was his fiancée, that someone had set him up. The videos went viral by evening. The same social media that had condemned Ethan for firing Maya now saw the full picture. The bruises. The violation. The desperate man being loaded into a police car. Public opinion shifted so fast it gave everyone whiplash. Ethan's company released no statements. They didn't need to. The truth was loud enough. Maya sat in a police station giving her statement when Ethan finally appeared. He didn't come to the interrogation room. He didn't make a scene. He simply waited in the lobby until she finished. When she emerged, exhausted and shaking, he stood from his chair and gestured toward the exit. They walked to his car in silence. Inside the sedan, Maya finally asked the question burning in her chest. "Why did you do all this?" Ethan stared out the window at the city lights. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight that made her understand this wasn't about her at all. "I had a sister, Elena. She was 23. Her boyfriend was a doctor. Respected. Beloved. Nobody believed her when she showed them bruises. They said she was clumsy. Dramatic. Seeking attention. She died 3 years ago. He pushed her down a flight of stairs during an argument. Called it an accident. Jury believed him." The car fell silent except for the hum of traffic outside. Maya's throat tightened. "I'm sorry." Ethan turned to look at her. His eyes held something cold and purposeful. "I don't save people, Maya. I don't have that power. What I have is leverage. Money. Influence. I can't make someone a good person. But I can make sure they face consequences when they hurt people who can't fight back." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folder. "Your fiancé will be prosecuted. The restraining order is permanent. The nonprofit fired him today. The missing funds audit will take months. He'll be occupied." He slid the folder across the seat. "This is yours. New identity. Legal name change. Everything you need to start over." Maya opened the folder. Documents. Certificates. A new driver's license with her photo but a different name. Emma Price. She looked up at Ethan, confused. "I don't understand. Why give me a new identity if Derek is arrested?" Before we continue, please hit the subscription button, like, comment and turn on the notification bell so you be notified anytime new video is uploaded. Because men like him have friends. Family. People who believe their version. This gives you the option to disappear completely if you need to. He paused. Or you can stay. Rebuild under your real name. Your choice. The next morning, Maya received an email. Not a termination letter this time. An offer. Director of Operations for a new foundation. The Artemis Project. Mission statement. Identify and extract individuals from dangerous domestic situations before violence escalates. Salary, $180,000 per year. Location, Manhattan. Start date, whenever she was ready. Maya read the email 3 times. The foundation didn't exist a week ago. The board members were all anonymous. The funding came from a shell company registered in Delaware. But the mission was real. The offer was real. She could help people the way Ethan had helped her. She could be the person who noticed the bruises and did something about them. She called the number at the bottom of the email. Ethan answered on the first ring. "I got your offer," she said. "I accept." "Good." Pause. "There's one condition. Nobody can know I'm involved. The foundation operates independently. My name doesn't appear anywhere. If people know a billionaire is running it, they'll scrutinize every decision. They'll question every rescue. The work matters more than the credit." Maya understood. Ethan had built an empire not for recognition but for the ability to move pieces on a board nobody else could see. He didn't want to be a hero. He wanted results. She showed up for her first day of work in a nondescript office building 3 blocks from the Grand Azure Hotel. The foundation occupied a single floor with a staff of 12. Former social workers, lawyers, private investigators, people who understood that sometimes saving someone meant destroying their abuser's life first. The work was quiet, methodical. They identified patterns, tracked repeat offenders, created exit strategies that looked like natural life changes. New jobs in different cities. Sudden inheritances from relatives who didn't exist. Opportunities too good to refuse. In 6 months, the Artemis Project helped 37 people disappear from dangerous situations. No press coverage. No viral videos. Just 37 lives that continued when they might have ended. Maya learned to spot the signs she'd once hidden. The long sleeves in summer. The careful way someone moved. The apologizing for things that weren't their fault. She became the detail that noticed what everyone else missed. Derek's trial happened on a cold February morning. Maya didn't attend. She didn't need to. The verdict came through her phone as a simple text from an unknown number. Guilty. 3 years. She deleted the message and went back to work. There was a new case on her desk. A teacher in Brooklyn with bruises shaped like fingerprints. A timeline to build. An exit to plan. Ethan watched from his penthouse office as Maya walked into the foundation building every morning. He never visited. Never called. Never checked in. The distance was intentional. This was her work now. Her mission. He'd simply provided the tools and removed the obstacles. The foundation's quarterly reports arrived encrypted on his personal server. Numbers. Statistics. No names. Just proof that the system worked. 1 year after that night at table 17, Maya stood in her office looking at a photograph pinned to her wall. 37 faces. Some smiling. Some serious. All alive. All free. She'd fired 3 abusers from their jobs using anonymous tips. She'd frozen 2 bank accounts through legal loopholes. She'd relocated 9 people to different states with new identities. The work was exhausting. The work was necessary. Her phone buzzed. New case. Female. 26. Bruises on her ribs. Engaged to a police officer. High risk. Maya grabbed her coat. She knew how this would go. The careful documentation. The quiet investigation. The moment when the officer's world would start falling apart in ways he couldn't trace back to anyone specific. She'd become very good at destroying men who thought they were untouchable. As she left the building, she passed the Grand Azure Hotel. The restaurant on the top floor glowed in the evening light. She hadn't been back since that night. Didn't need to. That version of Maya Hale died the moment Ethan rolled up his sleeve and showed her his scars. Emma Price was born from that death. Stronger. Angrier. Youthful. Somewhere above in a penthouse office, Ethan cross-reviewed financial reports and planned his next acquisition. The foundation was a line item in a budget that spanned multiple companies. Invisible. Untraceable. Exactly as intended. He'd learned from his sister's death that good intentions meant nothing without power. Caring meant nothing without action. He couldn't bring Elena back. But he could make sure other people's sisters survived. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. Mr. Cross. A woman's voice, shaking. My name is Jennifer. I got your number from someone at a foundation. I don't know if you can help me, but... She stopped. Background noise. A door slamming. I need to go. He's home. The call ended. Ethan stared at his phone. Then he forwarded the number to Maya with a single word. Urgent. 20 minutes later, Jennifer's phone received a text from a number she didn't recognize. Tomorrow. 9 a.m. Coffee shop on Madison and 68th. Bring nothing. Tell no one. We'll handle the rest. The cycle continued. The work never stopped. For every person they saved, 10 more waited in shadows, hiding bruises and making excuses and believing they deserved the pain. Maya couldn't save them all. Neither could Ethan. But they could save enough. One careful extraction at a time. One destroyed abuser at a time. One life rebuilt from the ashes of the old one. Derek served 18 months of his 3-year sentence. Good behavior. Model prisoner. He was released on a Tuesday morning in March. By Tuesday afternoon he'd applied for 12 jobs. By Tuesday evening, every application was mysteriously rejected. His credit remained frozen. His apartment lease wasn't renewed. Every bank refused him an account. Someone had made sure his name triggered automatic rejections in every system he touched. Derek couldn't prove anything. The blocks were too subtle. Too scattered. Too clean. He eventually moved to a different state. Took a job washing dishes. Lived in a boarding house. His social media stayed dark. His phone stayed silent. He'd become invisible in the exact way Maya once was. Sometimes karma needed a push. Sometimes justice required someone with enough money and anger to tip the scales. Maya never knew about Derek's release. Ethan never told her. Some information was protection. She had 37 new cases to worry about. 37 lives hanging in balance. She didn't need to waste energy on a man who no longer mattered. The bruises on her wrists had faded completely. The ones on her ribs were almost gone. The ones in her mind would take longer. Maybe forever. But she was healing. She was helping others heal. That was enough. On the anniversary of her termination, Maya received a package. No return address. Inside was a simple silver bracelet. No note. No explanation. Just metal formed in a perfect circle. Unbroken. Whole. She slipped it on her wrist, covering the place where Derek's fingers once gripped too tight. The weight felt right. A reminder. A promise. A warning. She looked up at the skyline where Ethan's building pierced the clouds. She knew he was up there somewhere, moving pieces on boards nobody else could see. Building empires and destroying monsters. Never asking for credit. Never wanting recognition. Just doing the work because someone had to. Maya turned back to her computer. Case 38 just came in. Brooklyn. Fingerprint bruises. She opened the file and started reading. The pattern was always the same. The response would be too quiet, methodical, devastating. By the time the abuser realized what was happening, it would be too late. The victim would be gone. The life would be dismantled. Justice would be served without ever seeing the inside of a courtroom. This was the work. This was the mission. Not saving people. That was too simple. Too clean. This was about removing the men who thought they were untouchable. About proving that money and power could be weapons for good when wielded by the right hands. About turning privilege into protection for those who had none. Maya picked up her phone. The teacher's number was in the file. He started typing. Tomorrow. 9 a.m. Coffee shop on Madison and 68th. Bring nothing. Tell no one. But before she could hit send, her office door opened. A woman stood in the hallway. Mid-30s. Long sleeves despite the heat. Eyes that wouldn't quite meet Maya's. I'm sorry to just show up, the woman whispered. I didn't know where else to go. Someone told me you help people like me. Maya set down her phone. The text could wait. The woman in her doorway couldn't. She stood and gestured to the chair across from her desk. Sit. Tell me everything. We'll figure this out. The woman sat. Started talking. The words came slow at first, then faster. A familiar story with different details. Different name. Same bruises. Same fear. Same desperate hope that someone would believe her. Maya listened. Made notes. Started planning. By the time the woman left 90 minutes later, she had a burner phone, a safe location, and instructions to pack nothing. The extraction would happen in 48 hours. The abuser's world would start crumbling in 72. The timeline was set. After the woman left, Maya stood at her window watching the city lights flicker on. Somewhere in those millions of windows, more people were hiding bruises. Making excuses. Believing the lies they'd been told about themselves. She couldn't reach them all. But she could reach some. And some was better than none. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Just 3 words. Good work today. Maya smiled. Ethan was watching. He was always watching. Not in a creepy way. In a protective way. Making sure the foundation had what it needed. Making sure the work continued. Making sure the people who hurt others faced consequences even when the law failed. She typed back a single word. Always. The conversation ended there. It always did. They weren't friends. They weren't partners. They were 2 people bound by shared trauma and mutual purpose. He provided resources. She executed strategy. Together they built something that shouldn't exist but desperately needed to. A shadow system for shadow victims. The bruises would fade. They always did. But the lessons wouldn't. The scars wouldn't. The determination to make sure nobody else suffered alone wouldn't. That was the real work. Not the rescues. Not the destroyed abusers. The work was remembering that every person hiding bruises deserved someone who would notice. Someone who would care. Someone who would act. Maya grabbed her coat. The teacher in Brooklyn needed a preliminary assessment. She'd do a drive-by tonight. Check the neighborhood. Identify exit routes. Plan the extraction. The work never stopped. The city never slept. And somewhere in the darkness, someone was hurting and hoping that tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow would be different. Maya would make sure of it. But first she had to decide. Should she reach out to the teacher tonight or wait until morning? The abuser was a police officer. That complicated things. Made them dangerous. One wrong move could get someone killed. She stood in the doorway of her office, phone in hand, the weight of another life resting on her next decision. The city hummed outside her window, indifferent and vast. In 48 hours, one person would be free. One abuser would face consequences. The system would work again. But only if Maya made the right choice in the next 10 seconds. Her finger hovered over the send button. And the decision that would change everything waited in the space between intention and action.